Hasnain Baxamoosa is the founder and CEO of GigHQ.ai. His topic is From Chaos to Copilot, How to Fix the Broken Job Hunt with AI and Data. His company, GigHQ.ai, is an AI-powered job search copilot with over 15 years of versatile experience in product management, engineering, sales, marketing, and customer success. He is a jack of all trades who has helped build and scale multiple startups and SMBs, small
Small,
businesses?
medium businesses. Yes.
Okay, small and medium-sized businesses, including Alien Vault, which was acquired by AT&T, Active Track, and SolarWinds. Lots of us know SolarWinds.
Mhm.
Obsessive about the details while staying focused on the big picture, Hasnain is now dedicated to revolutionizing the job search by empowering candidates with the automated tools and data-driven insights needed to navigate the path to their next opportunity. Let's give a very warm welcome to Hasnain Baxamoosa.
Thank you all for having me. I appreciate you taking this opportunity to talk to you all. I guess I will share my screen here. So give me 1 second. Um, there we go. There we go. There's that. Go back to the first one. Okay. And what I would also do, just so that in case people want to follow along, is I will put the link in the chat. So anyone that wants to actually, so if anyone wants to follow the slides, you're welcome to do that. There's some clickable links and things in there if you guys want to click through, but you don't have to. I'm going to walk you through it. So before I start, well, let me do
Can you put it in?
Yes,
There
ma'am.
it is. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I'll switch back and forth when I show some things, but yeah, this is a little bit easier to see. But no, thank you all for being here. Of course, no one wants to be here because people that if you're here, that means you're in a situation which we're all trying to get out of. So it's definitely a frustrating journey, and so I hope that some of the things I'll show you guys today will help you guys along the way. But yeah, it's I felt the pain. I was at my last company up until May of last year, and then as many of you, I got laid off. They downsized. And I did what a lot of people do in the job market, right? Is they start looking on LinkedIn, you start applying, you start trying to do the networking thing. But mostly I was frustrated because it's really hard to know where to spend time applying and where to spend time networking. And where you network and how you spend your time is just as important as just a sort of, getting a bunch of LinkedIn connections. And I have some opinions about just acquiring LinkedIn connections too, which, that's, I think, a separate conversation. But really understanding kind of the value of networking and where to spend your time. And so, this is, we all have the same frustration. We're all kind of, have years of experience with us. And similarly, there's, the same thing is true for everyone. And we have a lot of conversations about this with a lot of our users and people that we're talking to. And we hear a lot of these words, right? I mean, it's very competitive, it's stressful, it's uncertain, it's overwhelming. It's just, it's a very, very difficult situation. And so what I want to kind of go through today is not to just sort of show you one more tool and one more system, because I'm sure you guys have come across a lot and there are a lot out there. You can go Google them. There's hundreds of tools out there, and there's, the basic people use ChatGPT, they use JobRite, they use Steel, they use LinkedIn. There's a whole set of tools out there. But really what we're trying to do is make this part a little bit better, is add some clarity to the process. And so, as I was saying, kind of where I started down this path was when I became unemployed. I started doing kind of the things that most people recommend, but the hardest part was, it felt like all the companies have their applicant tracking systems, right? So they have the greenhouses and the workadays and all the ones that you guys come across. And then there's the job aggregators like the LinkedIn's and the Indeeds and the schools use Handshake. There's Career Builder and Monster, which also, FYI, I don't know if you guys know, but they were merged last year, and then now they're in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So even the job aggregators can't make money. So it's bad all around. But the struggle was that for me as an individual, kind of in that middle space of the aggregators on one side and then the company ATSs on the other, like I just wanted to know if I saw a job, whether it was worth my time, trying to find someone to reach out to, doing the networking, whether it was worth my time spending, looking at customizing my resume, writing a cover letter, all of that. And really what I wanted to know was, has that company even responded to anyone? And by responded to anyone, I also mean, have they even rejected anyone, or have they recently talked to anyone? Have they started to interview someone? Like, how do I find the companies that are actively recruiting today so I can spend my time trying to contact them and see if they have a role that fits me? So that's why what we wanted to do was kind of make that a little bit better. And so what the gig issue platform is essentially um, a data-driven pipeline. And as Kathy was sharing, I spent a lot of years in software, specifically focused on understanding, sales and marketing, customer success, and really how businesses operate and how data kind of flows through that. And so to me, the lack of transparency in the job market seems to be a data problem. And I think the reason it exists is because um, no one is measuring this aspect of the job market because the companies have what they need and they don't care. And the ATSs are supporting those companies. The LinkedIn, they're supporting those companies, but in the middle, like who's supporting us, right? Like who's supporting our job search really? And the other kind of insight that I realized, and this was more because I was in this job search, having been laid off for the first time in almost 10 or 12 years, because my previous kind of opportunities had been, I'd been at a company and someone went to a different company and they said, hey, Hasnain, we think we have a good role here. Why don't you come here? So I didn't have to do this part of the job search. And so that's where I realized that it's really, really broken, and it's really lacking really transparency in data. And so next slide. There we go. And so just Kathy covered this. I'll skip this, but this is essentially me, and this is kind of where we started. And so again, I kind of talked to a lot of this is really it's a big black box, right? Is that none of us know where to spend our time. And so how do we then the question becomes, okay, so how do you measure that? Because what we're doing today is essentially I have a resume and I kind of know what kind of job I'm looking for, but I'm basically holding my resume out and not knowing which companies care, not knowing which company they're interested. I'm hoping for a response. And if you were to think about, if you had money to go invest in the stock market, you would never invest that way. Like you would never spend your money on trying to acquire equities, stocks in a company, or trying to buy or sell equity without doing your research on what is the current price, what has the past price been, what is their future outlook looking like. There's the reason companies like Bloomberg and MarketWatch and Yahoo Finance exists because the data piece of it, the measurement piece of it is really valuable in knowing how to spend your time and where you get the best ROI. And so that's what we wanted to build with Gig HQ. And so kind of currently the way all of this works, right, is, and you all have been through this, is for each kind of opportunity we see, we search, right? And then we apply, and then we wait, and then we keep waiting, and then we wait some more. And we don't know if we're ever going to hear back. And so, we do all of this, like I was already kind of talked about LinkedIn and Indeed and Career Builder and Monster, right? So we kind of search there and then we go through the application, you go through the application process, write your resume, all of that. And then hopefully most of us are doing this is once you applied, and you should really be doing this before and after you apply, is have you tried to find someone to talk to at that organization? Have you found a contact? Have you found the hiring manager? And have you tried to get a referral, try to establish a relationship because you want, out of the 1,000 applications they're going to get, 1,000 resumes they're going to see, they want your name to pop up to the top. And so this is really something we really should all be doing, I think, anyways. And then of course, the waiting and the wondering and just the pain and anguish of not knowing. And so just to sort of think about that from a cycle perspective, right? So we're all doing searching, we're applying, and we're waiting. And it's just this endless cycle. And so what the kind of our approach to this is we should do it a little bit differently, right? So most people that I've talked to that are, sort of deliberate, diligent job seekers are also trying to keep track of where they applied, who they talked to. Hey, did I, reach out on LinkedIn? Did I grab coffee with someone? When did I last see a response? When do I have to follow up all of that? And so there's always some kind of, a lot of people do, Google Sheets, Excel spreadsheets. Some people do like Asana and Trello boards. There's a few other tools like Deal and some others that do it. So there's variations of tools that do these kinds of things. But a lot of people that are kind of really sort of deliberate about their search and you talk to Kathy and Shannon and a lot of coaches and they all recommend, hey, you need to be able to keep track of where you're applying, what you're doing, because how else are you going to know what's working and what's not working? But I have to challenge that to say, yes, that's true. But if it's just a row in a spreadsheet where you're just adding some data and some columns, like what are you really learning from that? And a lot of people I talk to also start out with a spreadsheet And 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks later, they're like, you know what, this isn't really helping. I keep putting stuff in there, but like it's not impacting my search. So why the hell am I even like putting all this effort in? And so we wanted to kind of really focus on that part of it. So the Gig HQ platform essentially, and I'll show this to you guys in a second, but essentially it helps you kind of track those applications. It really helps you be smarter in which kind of jobs you're applying to, what resume you use, what cover letter you used, and ultimately, did it result in an outcome or not? And an outcome being, did you get at least an interview or did you get a rejection? And depending on that, for the next one, it helps you kind of get smarter about what did you put in the resume that worked, or what kind of job did you apply to that you got a response versus the ones that didn't, and tries to help you get smarter about where to spend your time applying. So that's a big part of it is trying to understand as the system is used, it learns a little bit and it helps you kind of get better at your search. So hopefully you're spending time applying to and researching and networking with the ones that are hopefully going to result in the outcome that you want. And so slide. So so for the first part, okay, how do we identify opportunities? And I'll break this down kind of one at a time for you guys. But of course, we're all, I think, doing this in some sense, right? So the in-person or the online. So what we have is we've kind of created the concept of the job market radar or job market tracker. And so what that means is, as people that use our platform apply to different opportunities, what we're actually doing is we're aggregating and anonymizing, but also saying, hey, someone that used our platform applied to HEB as a marketing manager in the last week, right? And then we can report on how many days they were in an applied state before they got some kind of response, whether it's interview or rejection, and did they even get a response? And so the intent there is, if you start a job search today and you come across, I don't know, I'll just say Figma, and you've never talked to anyone in Figma, don't know anyone in Figma, never interviewed at Figma, but you just want to know is, hey, how many jobs have Gig HQ users applied to at Figma? And also, has Figma responded to any of them? Just because you want to really spend your time applying and networking and focusing on the ones where is likely to get an answer versus not, right? So that's a big part of it. So all these links, like I said, this slide deck is you guys can go through it. You can definitely click through and kind of do the same things I'm going to do, but I'll show you kind of the job market aspect of it that we're trying to track, and also what we call loving the outreach agent, which is helps you identify people to go talk to at those companies. So I'll stop the slide sharing just for a really quick second, and I'll show that to you, and then we'll jump back in. And then I'll give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions if you all want at that point. So let me get out of the how do I turn it out? Oh, there we go. So, okay, so I'm back here. And we were over here, something like that. Okay, so job market tracker. So essentially, if you go to our website, whether you're using our platform or not, and you're signed up or not, you can go to the website, and there's some other great information here. So I highly recommend you go check it out. But if you go to the job market tracker, essentially what we're doing is, again, if you think about it in terms of any site you go to go look at, like the Dow Jones data, right? So MarketWatch, Yahoo Finance, Bloomberg data, whatever. Essentially, we're trying to do something similar. So essentially, you can pick kind of a time window, and then we tell you kind of how many companies, how many roles of those companies, and how many actual applications we've seen, and how many days each, this is in total across the different stages that we've seen. But then you can also go down and click into a specific company. So for example, I'll pick the first one. So there's Limble is in here. So it looks like someone applied and they're currently in the applied stage. And this was the job that they applied to. So again, we're not sharing whether it was Hasnain or Kathy or Shannon or someone else that applied. We're just saying, hey, someone in our audience applied, right? And this is how, I guess this happened today because it's the days is zero. So someone's applied and they're in the applied stage, right? And so what we're really trying to do on this, what our goal is, I'll go back a couple of steps, is, and it's still early days, right? And we have about 700 people using it, about half of which are actively searching right now. But our goal is, as we see more companies and more jobs, can we really kind of do this part? And I'll zoom in here just a little bit to kind of highlight that. So can we help job seekers understand is, hey, has this company seen applications? And for those applications, has it engaged with those candidates, right? And so we very quickly want job seekers, all of us, to be able to say, hey, yes, this company looks like it's received applications for jobs that we can see, and it's responding. So it's a company that's actually actively engaging versus a company where I don't know, like Google might have hundreds of jobs on there. And are they actually hiring any of those? Like it's anyone's guess. And so the flip side of that is what we also really care about is, can we identify the ones that are suspicious? So maybe we've seen people apply to a job. So we've seen, I don't know, 60 applications in the last month. Not a single person got a response. So if you want to be number 61, you can definitely do it. But what this tells us is, hey, maybe it's not worth your time because they don't really respond to anyone. Maybe they're not hiring right now. Right. So that's kind of at the company level. And then the same thing, and I'll just kind of illustrate this a little bit better. Um, we posted our own internship job earlier this summer, and we have some students now working for us. And so this is kind of their journey through our application system is, these are the number of people that applied. We had the one job, and this is kind of where that distribution fell out, right? So we have, there's still a few applications in. We're interviewing a couple. We made an offer. We have a bunch that we rejected that because they were not a good fit. So that's kind of the job market radar piece of it. The next thing I was mentioning was the outreach agent. And so outreach agent essentially is a tool that helps identify people at a company that would be a good fit to talk to for a particular job. And so the job that I'm interested in is this IT manager position at Cloudflare. I love Cloudflare. I think they're an awesome company. If you ever get an opportunity to work for Cloudflare, highly, highly recommend it. I've been a customer and a user for years. They're an incredible company. And so what you can do in here is you can put in the company name and the job title. And if you actually give it the job link or the description, you basically have it find contacts. And what it does is it's actually doing a couple of things. It's looking in Google, but it's also looking in LinkedIn, and it's trying to find peers, so people that potentially you would be working with, hiring managers, and it's also because you give it the job details, it's trying to figure out which department that role is in and find people associated with that to try to help you establish contact. So this is still a little bit early days. We're working on it, but essentially what it does is it gives you LinkedIn profiles for now. We're trying to extend this a little bit so that we can actually get email addresses, which would be a little bit more of a direct line of sight because LinkedIn messages also cost money after a certain point. So we want to get away from that. And then you can also do the generate a draft message. So you could, put in your resume, and it will help you with generating draft copy of like what to write. And it takes into account your resume, it takes into account the job, it takes into account what it shared about the person, and it kind of helps you write a little draft message that you can send out. Now, the draft message is more email length than LinkedIn message length, and we're trying to work it so that we can do both. But the idea here is that rather than just going on LinkedIn and trying to find, first, second connections, like, can you really just, use this to find people that are relevant to the job and then try to see if you have a first, second, third connection and work that way, or potentially maybe just do cold outreach because I've tried that and it has sometimes worked for me. And then there's some options you can tweak it how you like, and you can run it a few times, and once you're happy with the copy, or you can take it out and tweak it as you like outside. But that's how the tool works. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat, but Shannon, if there are, feel free to stop me. But otherwise, I'll keep going. Okay,
Yeah,
so
just somebody's going to ask about cost, and I'm sure you'll get there.
okay, yes, I will definitely get there. Okay, so the next part is okay. So then, yes, you've done your research. You check to see if Cloudflare had a job. If GigHU's seen it before, has anyone at GigHU's user base applied? Then after that, you're basically gonna do, hey, now I need to write a resume and a cover letter and fill out the application form. And so, of course, we all have to do this. And whether you get a referral, also, you kind of basically still have to do this because you still have to fill out a form. And so we have a couple of tools. We lovingly call them Resume Rank, and then there's Cover Genius. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of show you how that works really quick. It's essentially, I wouldn't say I would use the exact output I get from the tool, but the idea is, can it help you get to a good starting point without you having to copy paste the job description, copy paste the resume in the chat GPT, having to take that output, all of that. Like we're trying to make it so that it's a little bit more one click and seamless. And I'll show you that part really quick also. So again, for example, like I was on the Cloudflare job. And by the way, the information that I was showing you about Cloudflare in the job market, in the job market tracker is also available in our Chrome extension. So if you have the Chrome extension and you keep it open as you go from job page to job page, whether it's a company page or it's LinkedIn, Indeed, Handshake, or whatever, we actually show you kind of what we know in the last 7 days and the last 30 days of that job. So you can quickly kind of make that decision on, hey, has anyone here applied here and has anyone responded, right? So that's the first part. But essentially what you can do is you can hit the get match score. And what that does is the first thing it's going to ask you to do is, hey, validate, is it the right company, right job title, and right job description. But then what you get is this, you get kind of analysis. And so what it tells you is like, it gives you a very high level summary, the equivalent of what, if you're working with a career coach at PurposeWorks or Launchpad or elsewhere, would do is going to give you some feedback on, hey, this is how we think you align to this job, right? What are your strengths? What are the core requirements of the job? Gaps that exist, right? So for example, for me, it says that, hey, you haven't mentioned direct people management. So maybe mention that if it's something you've done. Some other specific things, like I have used all of these tools, I just haven't explicitly probably put them on my resume. So it's saying, hey, you should mention those. And then it's doing the keyword analysis of like, what's in your resume and what's in the job description and what's missing. And then ultimately what it's doing is kind of giving this feedback down here of, hey, this is how we think you should improve the resume, optimize the resume. And then it basically helps you with the resume. And so it kind of writes it out. There's an editor. So this is kind of the best fit that it's created based on the gig issue profile, which I will show you guys in a second. But essentially what it's doing is kind of generating for you what it thinks would be the right fit resume for this role. And then we have currently 4 different templates. So you can pick one of these 4 templates that it outputs into. And then you basically can get a Word doc, which I recommend because it's easier to edit, or you can get a PDF, which, then you have to find a different tool to edit it if you decide to make changes. So I recommend the Word doc version. But essentially what you get is that document, right? And so then you can use that and go back and apply to that role. And by the way, if you decide, hey, there's certain feedback in here that you want to apply and it's still missing, you can make whatever changes you want in the editor and hit rescan, and it'll do the whole exercise again based on whatever you put in. And it'll give you subsequent output. And so what we're trying to do for our users is we're trying to get away from the concept of a resume. Like if you really think about it, a resume is like a 15-year-old, 20-year-old concept where people went to in-person job fairs and had to hand out a piece of paper to say, hey, I want to apply to your company. Here's my information, right? So it's kind of that, but it hasn't really transferred well into the digital world. It's still the way people think about applying to jobs. But what we're recommending is instead of thinking about it in terms of a resume, think about it in terms of your job profile. So what is your career history? What has been everything you've done from start to finish, right? Because, I mean, we all know this, like AI is really good at taking 10 pages of information and consolidating into one page if you give it specific direction. But if you only give it one page of information and you tell it to make changes, it's going to, what they lovingly call hallucinate. I'm sure you've all heard of this, like make up some stuff. And so what we really recommend is in here, kind of when you kind of, put in your work experience, like we recommend, hey, instead of writing bullets, like tell your story, right? When you tell your story, the system, and by the way, this is how I've written mine, and I haven't added bullets or formatting or anything like that, but I got a bunch of bullets on the other end because it's taking all that information and turning it into a resume. And so what we recommend is, don't think of it in terms of like bullet points. Tell us what you've done, what are your achievements, what is the impact you've made? And we'll use that to create a best fit resume for you. And similarly, you can add your projects. So if you've done something where you've done something meaningful that you think is relevant to include, you can add that. Obviously, you can add education. And by the way, in education, based on feedback from users like yourselves, we originally had it where you had to put a start and end date. Now you no longer have to put a start and end date because you don't want to be dated. So if you've done degree a while ago and you just want to say, hey, you did a degree, but you don't want to put it when you did it, you can definitely do that. The other things we're working on this is like volunteer experience and certifications. We don't have that yet, so that's under process right now. But just again, as much as possible, tell your career story, right? And right, the more you give it, the better it'll do is in trying to figure out what aspects of that story make sense for that particular role. So that's a big part of this part of the functionality. So I will go back to the slides unless there are questions. Should I keep going? Okay. All right. Try to move this over here.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Have you gotten any feedback from any hiring managers or HR people? I mean, you're talking about completely changing styles and formats of resumes, and that might work for some people, but I feel like for the most part, you're asking them, like, you're saying change how you do this, and then like to tell a story. But I mean, what we've heard is like HR and hiring managers don't really care about like long-winded stories. They're just like looking at these things, hundreds of them and thousands of them, and just want information quickly. So yeah, have you?
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. And I'm not saying that if you give it, 10 different parts of your work experience that it's going to use all 10. Like it's really trying to apply the specific parts that are relevant. And really what like the way the tool is built is the output you get is supposed to be within a page and a half. So it's not going to like tell, you start to finish Hasnain's journey from 2005 until 2025. It's really trying to summarize and take the relevant ones. So like it hasn't even gone further back than 2013 in mind, because for this role, it doesn't feel like it needs to add any of that, because that work experience A might be too old, or B might not be relevant for this role. But I think for people that are potentially maybe trying to make a career change, or have done something in the past, or done a project, or done volunteer work that is relevant to the role, but doesn't necessarily fit in the traditional sense of work experience. Like we're trying to basically encourage people to add more of that, so that the tool can help you fit that into that frame. So that's the way we're trying to do it. And the resume templates themselves, like we've shown these to people, and we try to make them as ATS friendly and also as people friendly as possible. And there is a very basic, like minimal version if you want to kind of use that too. But it's definitely not going to give you like a 5-page story. It's still going to give you about a 1-page story, but it's going to give you the best 1-page story that it can, based on all the information that you're given it. Does that help address what you're saying?
Not quite. I was more curious about like this format, the story type that you're talking about. Have you gotten much positive feedback from like hiring managers and HR folks that have looked at these resumes?
Yeah, so the feedback we keep getting is like a lot of hiring managers really care about this first part, right? So really, I mean, you have to remember that, especially when you apply today, because they see so many, like they're really only trying to see the first top part of the resume. They're really only trying to see, hey, does this person have the qualifications we need, and B, like what is their quick summary? So almost like your LinkedIn about, right? Is that relevant? And so the story part of it is helpful to frame this aspect of it. But the rest of it, like I was saying, is, even though I've kind of written it in longer form content, what it's giving me is bullets with metrics and like very specific parts of my background that are relevant to this role. So it's not turning it into a long paragraph. It's really meant to only output like a 1 or 2 sentence bullet point, and it tries very much to make sure that if there's quantifiable data that's relevant to the role, it's including that in the bullet points. And that's really what, I mean, if you talk to a lot of hiring managers, they really want to know is, hey, has this person done measurable things, actionable things that we um, can we discern that? And then if we get to the interview, can we ask them about that, right? Like that's really what you want to do, is put that face forward as you apply. And so that's what we're trying to do to help you guys do.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah.
There's another question that says, does your system take in job opportunities from any job site? You mentioned LinkedIn and Indeed as examples. Does it do a huge scan of all job sites?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And so the differences for us is no, we are not going out and scraping the web for company job pages or LinkedIn, Indeed jobs, etc. We are basically only displaying in here jobs where one of our users has applied. And so really the reason we have the distinction is because we want to be able to measure how people are doing, and we want to be able to report on the companies and jobs that we've seen. So we are not trying to be another place where you go search for jobs. We are the place where you research jobs and companies. And then when you apply, that job will end up in the system, and therefore it will benefit both you, but everyone else's view of, hey, is this company worth applying to or not? So that's an important distinction. We are not trying to be another LinkedIn or Indeed, but if you use the Chrome extension, or if you just find a job on one of those sites and you want to do your research here, you can come back to your research here. like I was sharing, the Chrome extension is really nice because it kind of follows you around. And as you go from job page to job page, it'll quickly tell you what we know about the company and job if we do. And if we don't, it'll say we don't have any information. But we're not trying to, like, I've never even heard of this one until I looked it up today because I saw it in the system. We're not trying to pull down jobs because, I mean, I think honestly that there's already enough tools and services out there. Like one more is not going to help anyone.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, back to the slides. And then, so yeah, and then we already talked a little bit about this earlier, but this next part I think is also critically important is making sure once you've applied is, are you trying to establish contact with that company? Are you reaching out to either the hiring manager? Are you trying to find people that work there, second, third connections and all that? And so this part of like our appreciation that we've built, we really feel that this is a really good tool. Highly recommend people try it and give us feedback, both from the perspective of did the matches seem relevant to you, but also did it help, did it work for you in terms of establishing contact with someone, did the copy work, etc. Because I think that this is one of those things that I think most people know they should be doing. No, I don't think everyone does it, but I think it's a really, really important part of especially searching today, because the way you search it has to change. It's just applying and then setting it and forgetting it is no longer, I think, relevant. So I'm not going to show it again because I already showed it. I just had an extra slide in there. And so really can I then, you know, what happens? So for each kind of opportunity that we have, right? Like there's all these pieces, and like I was sharing, there's still the waiting, right? And there's still the wondering. Unfortunately, there isn't a solution for this, but the intent of the job market radar and being able to track overall how people are doing and where they're seeing responses and where they're not seeing responses is to help answer some of that, right? Like we all know, we all say to each other, hey, yeah, it's just a bad market, and yeah, it takes a long time to get an answer. And like, yes, but we should measure that and we should try to understand that. And if it's happening a lot, or if it's happening in a particular sector, particular product company, etc., like we should understand that so we don't all fall into that same trap. And so that's a lot of the reason why we built all of this, is to help address that part of it. And so while there isn't quite a solution for the waiting, we're hoping that if you apply to companies that are engaging, that are actively hiring, then you won't have to wait as much. And the other thing that we're going to do as we sort of get people to use it, and as we learn more, is the goal here also is, can we help you identify trending companies, trending sectors, trending regions, right? So again, if HEB in Austin is maybe hiring in the marketing side, maybe you're in operations or you're in engineering, we should be able to tell you, hey, we know that you're looking for engineering roles. We know that HEB started hiring on the marketing side. Have you gone and looked to see maybe there's engineering roles open for you, right? Like that kind of guidance outside of the job alerts that Indeed and LinkedIn send you, where they're basically saying, hey, Hasnain, this is your profile. We got a promoted job because the company's paying us to promote it. We think you should apply, which is it. I don't know about how you all feel about that. I don't necessarily think that works. And the reality also is, the Indeeds and the LinkedIns, the Career Builders, the Monsters, the Handshakes of the world, the longer you and I stay unemployed, the more money they make. And so they're not really incentivized to help us get out of this situation in the first place. So just, something to keep in mind. And so kind of putting it all together, right? So you can kind of search with us. You can definitely get a start on the application process. You can get a start on who to talk to. You can track your jobs with us, and then our goal is to help you nurture yourself into the next role. So companies have their applicant tracking system. We lovingly call it the application tracking system, right? And then so if you kind of worked in sales or you worked in marketing, you've probably heard of a CRM. So that's a customer relationship management tool. So we lovingly call ours the candidate relationship management tool. And I'll show you guys kind of what that looks like. But essentially, we're trying to put all those pieces in one place so that as a job seeker, you're organized, you know what's happening next, you know where you need to focus, and you're not in the dark is essentially the point of all of this. And so let me really quickly kind of show you the entirety of it. And so what you really get with this, right, is you get a dashboard. And so every user that signs up with us gets an email address on our domain. And so what you get is I sign up with, you can either sign up with a Google account or an Apple ID. And the first thing you do is you pick an email on our domain. So I use Hasnain at Gmail, and I have Hasnain at GigHQ. And so the only thing I do differently outside of everything else that I do today is that when I fill out the form, the applicant form, I put in this email address. And then what that allows us to do is it allows us to monitor and one inbox per user. And because a lot of the communication for the job, but when you first apply, you get the acknowledgement. When HR reaches out to you, you get an email. When you get an interview, you get a calendar invite. Like it's all happening over email. And so we're trying to track all of that and monitor all of that. And so what then you get is kind of the like a visibility into kind of your journey, right? First of all, and then it groups all of those together. So it kind of puts all of those in here, so you can see kind of how you're doing. You can each one, once you apply, you get the application email, so you kind of get that in here, and it acknowledges that. We do a summary. So if you've been in a process for a while, you've had multiple communications, the system will group all those together, try to tell you how you've done so far and what the next step is. It keeps track of, if you use the Chrome extension and you go through and generate those documents and you download them, it'll attach them for you. So you have the information also on what resume you used to apply. And we're all hopefully customizing our resumes and the cover letter. You can see the company information, you can see the job page it was on, the job description. So it's all really in one place, where most people that are like doing this with any amount of deliberation are probably copy pasting all this stuff into an Excel spreadsheet, or trying to keep notes, or trying to be really good about. I was at one point where I had on my desktop with my Google Drive, I had resume _1 _Figma _final. Like it was, you get into that stage and it's like, okay, which one did I use and which one was relevant to this opportunity? And so we have all of that. And really the broader goal on this is, for me as a job seeker, as it learns about which ones I'm applying to and what did I use to apply, can it get smarter on the evaluation stage, right? So like right over here, actually not here. So can it get smarter here as it's giving me that output to say, hey, yes, this aligns with or doesn't align with jobs in the past. You've had success with this kind of role in the past, or you haven't had success with this kind of role in the past. So we recommend either you apply or don't apply, because each time you do an application, it's still time, right? And you could be spending that time applying to a role that's a better fit for you. So that's a big part of it. And then I'll show you kind of one quick other example. So when we were kind of, so again, if you start going through the process, you will receive an acknowledgement saying you applied, you get some interviews, etc. And it kind of keeps track of all of that. You can do emails through the system also. So it's just like an email inbox. You can send emails. If Kathy's at Gig HQ and you're like, oh, I found Kathy's email, I need to email her to say, hey, I'm interested in the role. If I meet someone for coffee, you can keep track of that. Like, so you can keep track of all the offline activities also. And so we're really trying to make it a one-stop shop for you to be really organized in your search, and then use that to help you get smarter about your search, but also help the community by sharing not specifically who and what their outcome was, but in general for the audience. How are people progressing? How many days it's taking? When did you get a response? If you got a response, if you didn't get a response, all of that. And so that's kind of the entire platform end to end. And then just really quick, I think I have one or two more. So yeah, so we kind of lovingly call these things different names, but they're all kind of part of the platform. And that's my information. And then the price question. Yeah, so our goal with this is the application tracking, the job market tracker, job market radar. Our goal is to keep that free for the end users as much as possible. We are talking to a few organizations that support job seekers. So, for example, we're talking to the University of Texas, their career services for their students. We're talking to, if you guys have heard of Udacity, they have learners, right? So there are organizations that either upskill, reskill, or have students that are entering the workforce, and they need also visibility in all these things. So we're trying to make it so that we work with them, and there's like a B2B, a business to business model where we're working with them and they're paying for access to the underlying how their audience is doing, so that the end users like you and I that are just kind of using this are able to use it without any cost. And then so we're trying very much to, if we can kind of make sure that works, then that's going to be our how we kind of grow this business and continue to work forward on this. Now, is there some potential where if we do recommended matches or something like that down the future for individuals, maybe, I don't know yet. I think we're still early, so we'll have to see. But for the most part, our goal absolutely is at least the tracking piece, the all of the things you've seen today for the end users. We would like to give this people access to this free of charge because we really strongly feel that this is the job market today isn't great, and most of it's a lack of visibility, most of it's a lack of empathy. I think people are, we all say to each other, hey, it's bad, and yes, people don't respond and blah blah blah, but like it would be nice to measure, nice to understand it, nice to know that, hey, if there are organizations, companies, sectors where there is a lack of response, then we should spend time on the ones that do respond. And hopefully we can all learn from a little bit from that. I guess one question I would have for this group is kind of to flip that a little bit. I would be curious is, especially for an organization like Launchpad, would it be beneficial to be able to group people together so that we could all measure our own progress as a group and support each other in our journey? That's something we've been considering. We haven't rolled it out yet, but we're definitely trying to see if there's a potential for maybe having cohorts of job seekers. And so as they're searching, like they're able to understand each other's behaviors and trends and talk to each other about, hey, what's worked and not worked. So there's that aspect of it. But I would love to get at some point feedback, or if you all want to reach out separately after, I would love to hear about that. Again, the link to this is in the link to these slides is in the chat, and I know that Shannon said she's going to send it out. Or if you all want to save it, my information's in here. Feel free to reach out. I would love to hear feedback. If it made sense, I would love to hear why. If it didn't make sense, I would love to hear why not. If there's things that you would like to see in this, I would love to hear about that too. And I would also quickly, just one more thing share is, even if you don't use the application tracker, like I would highly recommend trying to see if the job market radar tracker makes sense for you. And then finally, we have on our website, it's just www.gghu.ai. A lot of what I showed you, there's standalone versions of all of this. We're also working on incorporating an interview prep tool. There's a career plan tool, like before you start your search journey, we call it Career Compass. I would love to get feedback on all of those too. We're trying to figure out how to incorporate these different pieces into the platform. Certainly the interview prep piece, I think, fits well. I think the marketing plan piece, we're trying to figure out where that would fit. Maybe that's part of the early step as you fill out your profile. We're not quite sure yet. But yeah, if you want to use these kind of independently, you can. It just means that because we don't have a profile and there's no account creation, like you have to do a lot of copy pasting, which is painful. As I said, GigHU is free. You can go to app.gighu.ai today, sign up today, and start using it once you fill out your profile. And yeah, and that's it.
And the cost?
So as I said, for the end user, we're absolutely trying to make this so that we're not charging for anything. You can sign up for free. There's no credit card information required. None of that. We're not planning to charge people to do the application tracking with us. Anything I've shown you guys today, we're very much trying to make it free of charge. Our goal is to work with we're in talks with career services at University of Texas. We're talking to Udacity, which is an organization that helps learners with certification programs. We're working with an organization called Extern, which helps students with job training. So we're trying to work with them to partner with them and have them pay for access to this data, because they care about, hey, did our students get a job after graduation, or did our learners job search journey get impacted by the certification I got from Coursera, or did Extern's internship program impact someone's ability to get a job at GM? And so we're trying to work with that. So our model is very much focused on a business to business model, not a business to consumer model. So everything you've seen here is totally free.
Oh, excellent. That's
Yes,
great.
ma'am. Yeah.
Any questions? So the more people that start
Yeah.
using it, the greater your database will be, and the more usable. So it's an exponential thing that everybody should.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, most people that are searching are doing, some are doing a couple of weeks, some are doing 10 a week. So yes, absolutely, as we get more people in it. And again, the value for the individual is that as I start using it more and apply to more jobs, it gets smarter about making recommendations for me on, is this
Right.
actually a good fit for me or not? And really what we want to do further down, and you've absolutely kind of, hit the nail on the head, is What we really want to do is like LinkedIn today is saying, hey, Hasnain, this is your LinkedIn profile. This is a promoted job. We think you should apply. What we really want to do is when we do that comparison, like when we give you that feedback, we want to say is, hey, Hasnain, you're looking at this job at, forget what this one was. I think it was Cloudflare. You're looking at this job at Cloudflare. We know that 50 people have applied to similar jobs recently. There's 15 that got interviews, that's 35 that didn't. You're closer to the 35 based on other jobs we've seen that are similar and the profiles we've seen. So we don't think you're going to get an interview on this job. Like, don't apply, right? Like, if we can do that, or we can understand lookalikes, both from a job perspective and a candidate perspective, that is much more powerful. A, in us giving you recommendations on where to spend time and helping you with matches, but B, also helping you make sure that you're writing the resume, putting information, making sure you're contacting the right people, including the cover letter with the right information to get you to that next step.
Steve Bauer, you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yeah. Does Gig HQ include tracking information on the interview process? Like how long, response times, some less, how do I call it, savory practices, such as having people do projects for interviews that actually look like free consulting work kind of thing?
Yeah,
So that
yeah, that's a tough one. I think that last one's a little bit harder. I think we haven't quite built into the system yet opportunities for our users to give that level of feedback. But absolutely, what we're trying to track is, did you apply and never get a response? So is it a ghost job? Or did you apply, get one interview, maybe another interview, and then never hear back? So, right, can we understand, is the employer one that's actively engaging, and is their behavior good or not? And so that's where this information is really, really useful, is to know, for a particular job or a particular set of jobs at a company, is how are people kind of, how are they distributed? And then for the specific role, how many days? So on average for this role, it looks like, someone that applies hears back within 11 days, right? And then they're in interviewing for 4. So that probably means that they're doing 1 interview, that kind of thing, which also I think for job seekers like you and I, if we come across a company that we've never heard of and we don't know anyone in our network that is at that company, and we don't have the benefit of a career services or a PurposeWorks or a Launchpad, where do we go do that research, right? Like, that was my biggest frustration, is if I come across a company that I've never heard of that I'm interested in, but I want to make sure that I know something about that company before I apply, and it's not just trying to find LinkedIn contacts and make a connection request. It's like, okay, but what is their behavior in terms of their engagement with candidates, right? Like, that was a big part of this. So, but absolutely, there's other parts of this we're working on. There's the before the interview, helping you prep and kind of send you reminders, all of those things. After the interview, reminding you to say, hey, we send a thank you note, and helping you generate that copy. We're also working on, after the interview, having people put their notes in, because those notes are then valuable in the second and third interview. But then also for the community, if we know what Steve's experience has been interviewing at, I'm just going to say Figma again because it's in my head now, but at Figma, then we can kind of give people that perspective of, hey, within the last month, we know someone in our community interviewed at Figma. This is what they said about that experience, right? Like, that also is, I think, super valuable, because, like, I don't know how you all feel about Glassdoor and stuff, but I have a hard time trusting what's on Glassdoor.
Somebody has asked, will it work for NPOs and government jobs, especially finding hiring authorities?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely use it for any job application where you're using an email address to apply. We in full transparency, we've done our best to make especially the Chrome extension, so that you get that data in context, work on like the big job boards like the LinkedIn, Indeed. It works in Google Jobs. It works in Monster, Handshake for students, all of that. Now, there's certainly, there's jobs.gov. There's other ones where everyone's a little bit different, and so as we see more people visiting more job sites, we're trying to find the ones we see most often and kind of go address those first. But if you're using it and it's not working for you, if you're signed up, you can definitely send us an email. You can, reach out to us if you're in Discord, or you're on Reddit, or however you want to contact us and say, hey, I tried to use it here, it didn't work. when we find those out, we will definitely go address those. A lot of what you see in this tool is built based on feedback from users. We have slowly been adding things that we've been hearing from our users, and so we're actively trying to make it better. But yeah, I wouldn't say it works everywhere all the time. It's not possible. The web is just too complicated for it to work everywhere all the time. But
Yeah.
we're certainly trying to make it so it works in as many places as possible.
And I think you said that people could use Google or something else, or Gmail or whatever, or something else. Somebody said, can you use Outlook or other email and not have to use a Google profile and Docs, etc.?
Yeah, so when you go to the sign up page, we give you the option of using either a Google account or an Apple ID account to sign up. If those don't work for folks, then let us know. We just haven't done the email, username, password, because like these third-party authentications are honestly a little bit more secure. But if more people feel strongly about that, we can certainly add that. From an email perspective, once you sign up and if you want your applications to be tracked, you have to use the email address you pick with us. Just because the reason we even did that was, and I'm sure Kathy's said this to people, and a lot of people that help job seekers say this, is because the job search sends you a lot of email. You generally want to create a separate email address for that, because otherwise it just gets overwhelming. It gets lost in your inbox, and your Gmail will be just Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, whatever you use will be flooded with messages. And so what this system is doing is it's creating an inbox specifically for you for that aspect. And it's also doing something interesting is as you get messages back from companies, from recruiters, from other things, it's actually trying to decide hey, is that a message that's worth Hasnain's time or not? We also have this concept, and we're actually going to rename it because I don't love the name, but we also have this concept of alerts, right? So you also get job alerts. And so a job alert is not really necessarily related to a job application, doesn't need to be actioned immediately. And so those go into a separate bucket. So it's almost like when you go to Gmail and you have like the primary and you have updates and you have promotions, like our system's learning and it's trying to make sure that it sends to you the ones that are most important first. And everything else is in there, but it goes into a separate bucket. So when you get time, you can go look at it, but it's not something we want to tell you to say, hey, you have to go do it right now. Versus if you apply, you get a response for, hey, I need to talk to you, schedule time with me, you get an interview request, or you get a rejection. Like you want to know that. And so those are in your primary notification box.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much. Is there anybody else that has another question? This was great information. You've got a lot of people in the chat who intend to use it and check it out, and especially because the price is right. So we hope that our people can add to your database. We have, when you were talking about how our organization could use it, I don't know if you were here when we were talking about our SWAT teams, but we have a number, like 4, I think, of accountability groups, which are subgroups of Launchpad. We have an executive one. We have, I think, one for technical people. Anyway, there's different groups, and they have a highly metricized accountability model where they have numerical goals for how they look for jobs and follow up and all that stuff. This would play right into that. And so we could have, if those groups decide to use this, you would have this subgroup data, and then so the larger Launchpad organization itself. So yeah, we might.
Yeah, I will get in touch. We should absolutely talk about that. I would love to help you support
Shannon
that.
can get you in touch with the person who's in charge of those subgroups.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, I think hopefully the price resonates with everyone. And I think that really what we're trying to do is give people back time, right? Like, can we get people back time from not applying the ones that don't make sense, avoid the ghost jobs, help with kind of avoiding all the copy pasting people are doing, like a lot of the things we can ease to get you back, focus on opportunities that actually make sense. And I even forgot to mention, like, one of the things the tool also does is when you apply to a job and it's an active state, if you haven't reached out, if you haven't made any notes on it, if the company is not responded to you in 4 weeks, it actually goes from the active bucket into the archive bucket, because you should really spend time on ones where you're getting traction, right? So like it starts to move those over. And then if you still get nothing in another 4 weeks, it automatically marks it rejected because of that point. I mean, if you get a message after that, it'll flip back open, but really it's like, hey, spend time on the ones where you're getting traction. Don't waste time on the ones where yes, you took a shot, nothing happened, move on.
Have you looked at this hunter.co? It's Hunter without the E, HUNTR, and then I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
it's CEO. Have you looked at them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because they do some similar things, and uh I spent a long time, years since I've looked at that site, so I can't remember it all, but I think one of the things that they do is keep track of, so you put in the name of the company and
Mm-hmm.
um the contact person, and then it'll say after an interview, it'll say, did you
Mm-hmm.
send a thank you letter, and did you, they keep track of all of those
Yeah.
little
Yeah. There's
steps in the
Hunter, there's Steel,
process.
there's a few other ones, but they're all require us as users to manually do a lot of management. And so what we're trying to really do is, can we bring the power of the data and can we leverage some AI to make it so that like the obvious things the system should be able to do for us. Like in this day and age, it makes no sense that we have to manually go and add dates and move stuff around and remember to do those
Yeah,
things. Like it should be able to do it for
yeah.
you.
Yeah, that part is just excellent, and a lot of people are going to be trying it out. So,
Please definitely reach out if you use it, and if it works for you, doesn't work for you, either way, I would love to hear, what resonated, because that helps us get to more people and help more people.
right,
So for sure.
right, yeah, yeah. Don't hold back on your opinions of things or your
Absolutely. Yeah.
suggestions, because this is the beta part where it's really good. So this last one said, "Thank you, Hasnain. This tool is brilliant."
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's been honestly a labor of love. I really hope that it helps people. That's really why we worked on it so hard.
Well, we appreciate it, and very, very grateful to you for coming and talking to us. This was
Absolutely.
all right. Stay in touch with him, everybody. And thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Good luck searching.
Thank you very much. You as well.
Bye.